Welcome, everyone. We're so excited to have you here for Fun with Flowers, Gorgeous Greens. My name is Denise Reagan. I'm the Executive Director of the Garden Club of Jacksonville. I would like to thank the Jessie Paul DuPont Fund for making hybrid programs like this possible. We're so very grateful for their support. I'd also like to thank our Fun with Flowers chair, Martha Collins Davis, who checked you in today. Let's give her a round of applause. We're so grateful for all the work that she puts into these programs. And I want to tell you about a couple more that are coming up. We have Joyful Bouquets. Joyful Bouquets is on May 12th. There is a morning and an evening program. We try to mix it up a little bit. And so Crystal Joy has a company called The Joy of Floral. Is that adorable or what? And so she's going to be doing really beautiful bouquets that are all about expressing your inner creativity. And then also on July 14th, we have French florals. Samantha Wilson of the St. John's Flower Market will be teaching that. And she has gotten a good amount of education in the art of French technique. So that will be a really great one too. So put those on your calendar and you can go ahead and register for them right now on the Garden Club website. If you're not a member of the Garden Club, I invite you to become one. If you're not, why not? Oh, well, that's not good. Let me do that. Audio settings to make it sure I'm getting a level. Yes, tick tock, yes, okay. Whew. All right. If you're not a member of the Garden Club, it's a good time to join because programs like this, they're incredibly less expensive if you're a member. And so if you just get a couple programs a year, you're paying for your membership. And there's so many other great reasons to be a member. So if you're interested, please see the check-in table. There's information there, or you can talk to me. Getting a little bit of feedback. Does it sound okay? Yeah, okay. All right. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Bonnie Melin. Bonnie is a Wisconsin native living in Florida for the past 12 years. She earned a degree in horticulture from the University of Minnesota and has been designing flowers for weddings and events for 20 years. She got her start growing her own flowers at a very young age and used those blooms to create her very first bridal bouquet. She now has an extensive collection of flowering and foliage plants at her home in the Avondale neighborhood, many of which you're going to see tonight. And some of them were donated from other wildflower members as well. All right, Bonnie, there you are. Welcome, Bonnie Melin.
Thank you very much, Denise. As she said, my name is Bonnie, and it's actually Melin. Everyone gets it wrong. Don't feel bad.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't worry. I married into the last name, and I guess it is what it is. So for the first 3 months, I thought I was dating a Melin until they finally said, no, his last name is really Melin. I'm like, okay, it's all good. But anyways, here we are. Thank you for coming out tonight, and I'm so glad the evening program worked for you ladies, and I'm excited to share some gorgeous greens with you. As Denise said, some of the things that you're going to see here tonight are from my yard, and some of them are commercially grown. And I'll let you know which are which. My friend Jeannie, who's in the Moonflower Circle with me, and she also helps me with weddings and events, brought some things from her yard as well. So a lot of these are native Jacksonville plants. And then again, some of them are going to be commercially grown as well. So the first thing we're going to get started with is beautiful ferns. Jeannie cut these from her yard, and we've been trying to identify them all day. And does anyone know which ones they are for sure? Holly ferns, yes. Okay, thank you. So she brought those from her yard. And I brought these from my yard. I'm not 100% sure which ones these are either. I'm terrible with ferns. I have a degree in horticulture, but ferns are not my specialty. But these ones were just growing in my backyard. And I've got another one here too. Those ones were from my yard too. This one, it's not a leather leaf. It's similar to a leather leaf, but it's more delicate than a true leather leaf. I hate leather leaf. I do know that fern. That's the one fern that when I worked at the first flower shop I ever worked at, we used a lot of leather leaf. And it's overused in my opinion. And I think it looks cheap because usually it's free. So that's why I don't love it. But that's another one. This one is a type of a maidenhair fern. And that one's from my yard as well. Usually maidenhair fern is a little bit more lacy, but this one is like an umbrella almost. And then this last one, I'm not 100% sure which one this one is either. These froze like a month ago. And so this is brand new growth that we've seen just in the last couple of weeks. So how is the microphone? Is it good? Okay, good. All right, so I've got my different types of ferns that we're going to use here, and I filled up these various size bottles. And so we're just going to make a little, they're essentially going to be little bud vases of just different types of ferns in each one. And we're going to just put them all together, and it's going to look fabulous. So I'm going to start with these light green ones and add them to my bottles. And I'm just going to put maybe 2 in each one. And then we're just going to do a couple more. I might do this smaller bottle. And I'm just going to pull off some of these bottom pieces to make them a little bit smaller. Just like that. But even by itself, that's pretty cute. And then I'm going to use some of these bigger ones. Now, some of these things are a little dirty because, yes, they've been in my yard. A little bit. Is that better? Okay. All right, so some of these might be just a smidge dirty. We're just going to clean them off a little bit, and then I'm going to add them in to the little vases. So he looks good by himself. Move these out of the way. And I'm going to use our nice holly. What do you think? Does that look good? All right, and then I'm going to use some of this lovely maidenhair in these little ones. Put them there. Set that one. Which one's your favorite out of all of the ferns? Do you guys grow a lot of ferns in your yard at home? Yeah? No? Yes? Some of them are just invasive, aren't they? They just take over. This one in particular, I think I planted like 3 plants, and I want to say it's probably taken over like 30 square feet of my yard. I've had to split them many times and move them. Thankfully, they froze, quote unquote, and they died back a little bit, so it's not quite so full, but once they come back to life, they're just going to be everywhere, I feel.
Oh, by the way, if you have questions, I'll bring the microphone over to you so we can get them on the recording as well. So just give me a signal, smoke signal, hand signal, whatever you got.
All right, I'm just going to move the rest of these out of the way so you can see what it looks like. We're just going to line them all up. So you can just kind of play around with these how you think they look good together, but I'm going to put some taller ones toward the middle. And even if you just had like 3 together, that looks really cute. But if you want to line your dining room table, you can just line them all up. How many do I have here? 6, 9. Just put different ones. Not necessarily put. I would put them all, space them all out so you don't have the same exact ones together. Just like that. What do you think? You think that would look good down your dining room table for a little evening dinner? All right. So that's number 1. Yes. Yes. Yep, that works. Perfect. Yeah, those I've collected over the years from various vendors online or even antique markets. I've got a whole collection, probably, I don't know, 150, 200 bottles, different shapes and sizes, and even a couple different colored bottles as well. So when you've done weddings for 20 years, you amass a collection of all kinds of treasures. So, and the bottles have been a fun one to use for sure. So those, actually, I've done a couple really pretty weddings of just a couple bud vases of different blooms of different colors, just kind of lining the dinner tables, and it makes for a big impact. And you're not spending, $300 on one table. You're spending maybe $50 or $75 instead. But it does make a huge impact without spending a ton of money on your flowers. But all right, this guy. Are we ready for this guy? This is a really fun bowl. This one is not raffling off tonight, sorry, but it's like a $150, $200 bowl. But this one's gonna be a fun one. To start with mechanics, I just cut some chicken wire and I just kind of scrunched it up a bit. Fit inside a little bit just to help hold the shape a little bit better. Now you could put some tape over the top of it as well to kind of hold it in place. And I think I might just put one little piece across the top. And this is just your Oasis anchor tape. It's kind of like floral duct tape. It sticks to anything pretty much. And then I'm going to use branches that I cut from my yard. I've got oak leaves. I have camphor, and there's one other type of tree that I'm not 100% sure what it is either. My degree in horticulture is really failing me here in Florida because I didn't have to identify everything that grows here. I had to identify everything that grew in Minnesota, so it's a little bit different. I will say this unidentified tree branch here is growing here at the garden club too. So it's blooming right now. It's got a little teeny tiny white blooms, and there are a couple pieces that have berries on them. So if you know what it is, you could let me know. I don't know. But I'm just going to start adding some branches to this big giant bowl, and I'm going to move it out of the way because it's going to get a little full and tall. But I'm going to use my trusty Falco pruners. Does anybody use these at home? They're not a cheap pair, but they are definitely an investment, and you will have these forever as long as you don't lose them. These ones are probably 10 years old, and they're still going strong, and you can sharpen them. So they're definitely a great clipper to have. I'm just going to start adding some of my branches through my chicken wire. And I didn't fill it all the way up full of water because it's going to be really heavy. So I only put a little bit of water in there for now. But if I were doing this for an event, of course, it would be completely full of water. I'm just going to tape that a little bit more. It depends. If I'm going to do it on site and I don't have to transport it in my car, then I would completely fill it up. But if it were for a wedding and I did design it at my studio first and then I was taking it to the wedding, then I wouldn't fill it completely up and then fill it on site. It's super, super heavy as it is right now. With even more water, it would be impossible to carry it. I have to have my strong husband Move it for me, yes. The floral food, yeah, absolutely. I just didn't do that today. And I don't have any for you either tonight, but they're greens, they should be fine. They're not quite as picky as flowers are, but yes, absolutely. I use flower food all the time in all of my pieces that I do, unless it's tulips that don't like flower food. But I'm just gonna start filling this in, taking off any excess leaves that are on the bottom. And just stick it into my chicken wire here. This chicken wire is a nice mechanic to use if you're gonna do something of this magnitude, even smaller pieces. And one of my later arrangements, I'm gonna use this Holly Chapel pillow, which is basically chicken wire, but it's plastic and you can reuse it. I don't know if any of you know, Holly Chapel is a nationally renowned designer. She works out of the DC area, and I've been fortunate enough to study under her, but she's come up with some really cool mechanics to help the floral industry. Along the same line as this pillow, she created one that's kind of a shape of an egg, and it's super helpful in making a bridal bouquet. What do you think of the greens so far? Yeah, I'm gonna add a little bit more of this, whatever this mystery green is first. It's some kind of tree. It's growing in my backyard. Fringe tree? No, it's not a fringe tree. Those ones are fringier, a little bit fuller. I do have an app, but I just didn't have time today. It's been a busy day. I have to look on my phone. I'll let you know. There was one that I had downloaded, and then it was like $30 a year to use it. I'm like, I'm not going to pay $30 a year to, use it once or twice. But I have a free one on my phone that I'll have to look and see what it's called. But my father-in-law is always sending me pictures. What is this? What is this? Most of the time I can tell right away what it is, but every once in a while he's got to stump me on something. Wouldn't this look nice at like a big hotel lobby or just like a welcome table for an event? Maybe for the oyster roast that they have here. That would be kind of fun. All right, so I'm going to add some of this camphor next. Does anybody have camphor trees in their yard? Yep. Anybody know what medicinal use camphor is used for? Ding, 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 ding. Yep, that is correct. Vicks Vapor Rub. If you crush the leaves, and maybe I'll send out a little piece. Hand out a piece. If you crush the leaves, you can smell like the Vicks coming through. But I love working with this camphor because if I were going to use it as a garland, it holds up really, really nice. And it's nice and full. Now, I haven't inspected any of these greens for bugs or anything like that. So if you were going to bring it in your house, I would definitely inspect it for bugs first, just to make sure. I did clean off the aspidistra that I brought in because that usually is got a few random critters on it.
Do green arrangements tend to last longer?
They can, absolutely, yes. As long as your house isn't 1,000,000 degrees, then the greens usually last a bit longer than some of the fresh flowers. There's some that last a really long time, but greens can definitely last forever. Silly me, a couple of weeks ago, I was cleaning out my cooler and I had some Christmas greens still in there, and I forgot I was going to use them for my presentation today, but they still looked good. But I'm like, well, why do I need Christmas greens? It's February. But you can hold them in your cooler for a really long time. If you've got them in water, they'll last virtually forever. Right, so this has got some berries on it, if that helps anyone identify what it is, but. So these red ones are Felco pruners, and there's a couple different numbers. I think this is number 40, Felco. You can buy them on Amazon. But the blades do come off to sharpen them, and you can oil them up and everything, but they're really nice. I will tell you this, just be really, really careful when you're using them. I did clip my pinky a long, long time ago and had to have 3 stitches because I was working with a brand new pair and I wasn't paying attention, but they're great. No other issues besides that one time. But this is some beautiful water oak from my front yard. I'm just going to add a little bit of this in too. Now this is a newer growth piece, so the color is a little bit lighter. But I love just the little delicateness of the leaves. And it just adds a little lighter pop of color in there too.
I did look up a couple of plant apps, Picture This and PlantNet are 2 that I've tried to various levels of success.
Yeah, there's a lot of great ones out there. Just make sure you find a free one so you don't get hit with a surprise charge on your account. Well, I've definitely seen trends have come and gone and they're coming back again. Kind of when I started, it was definitely traditional, I would say more traditional stylings with a lot of baby's breath. And then it kind of took a pause, and then it was baby's breath and burlap and lace. And then it took a pause, and baby's breath has come back again, unfortunately, just in mass. I've seen giant balls of baby's breath. I've seen runners of baby's breath. I could do without it, if you ask me. But cascade bouquets is another thing that's kind of come, right? Like it happened, and then it paused, and then we had like these roundy moundies, and then that pause, and then it's loose gardeny feeling. And now we're kind of going to not quite roundy moundy, but not quite so gardeny and airy. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Like the trends have just kind of changed. Right now, we're seeing a little bit more color coming back into the palette. Champagne, light pink, white has been very popular for a number of years now, but thankfully we're seeing color come back. I just did a kind of Indian wedding, like he was Indian and I think her stepdad was Indian, and they weren't having a true per se Indian wedding with everyone in the garb, but they had the colors of an Indian wedding with the bright oranges and reds and hot pinks. So we're definitely seeing some color come back in as far as trend wise goes, but containers have also changed. Milk glass was popular for a number of years, and that stopped. Mason jars, of course, were popular for a number of years, and that's kind of stopped. Right now, we're still seeing a lot of mercury glass like this. But I think that's even taking a little bit of a pause, not completely going away, but there's other things coming into play, just more like clear glass, just different shapes and sizes and things like that. So, all right, what do we think? I'm going to add a little bit of this negi here. So all of this is stuff out of my yard or foraged, and then the negi is a commercially grown green. So I'm just going to add a little bit of that as well. Another wedding trend, going back to that, has been ribbon. for the last couple of years, the ribbon streamers have been really popular with silk ribbon, and that's kind of going away now, and just doing very clean, neat ribbon ties on the bouquets too. All right, now you see me clip the ends every time I insert something into the arrangement. That's just to give everything a fresh cut so it has a chance to drink up water. And actually the top of this just spins around, so I'm just going to spin it around and get some more in the back here. Oh, absolutely. Yep. I definitely go back and give things a haircut if they need one. Yes. And different textures. Yep, absolutely. When you're doing an all green arrangement, it's important to have that aspect. So it's not just a stale one type of greenery. Yeah, absolutely. It's important to have that texture in there, and different leaf sizes too. Like this is a smaller leaf. Some of these are a little bit bigger. These ones are pretty tiny. And some of the later on pieces I'm going to do, there's going to be smaller leaves and bigger impactful leaves. And it just looks good together instead of all the same exact thing. So this one I think I'm going to call good here in just a second, but I'm just going to add a little bit more of this neg in here. Now you could go even further out, but my mirror is in the way. But what do you think? Does it look good? All right, I'm just going to add one more, and then we'll move on to the next one. So we'll see if you can carry this one, Denise. What do you think? You could definitely add more to that, but we're going to move on to the next arrangement. All right, next I'm going to do an all eucalyptus bouquet. I love working with the different types of eucalyptus because there's so many and they're so different, but yet they're all in the same family. Oh, absolutely. Flowers, greenery across the board are going up. Throughout COVID, you know, I would price out a wedding and then I would go and do the wedding and it's like 30% higher from what I had quoted it at. So thankfully I didn't have too many weddings during COVID. I actually had a baby during COVID. So I purposely didn't book nearly as many things, Jeannie will tell you. But even now, like when I'm looking at weddings, it's really hard to price them out accordingly because you don't know what's going to happen to the market. Like even with gas prices, as we've all seen in the last, 2 weeks. Right, exactly. So yeah, it's definitely hard to price out a wedding right now and know what things are actually going to cost when it comes time to do the wedding. So I'm trying to give myself a buffer. I'm in a couple floral groups and they're like, maybe you need to write a clause in your contract that states that you have the right to increase the price if necessary, if you know things are 50% higher, even double what it used to be. There's definitely some floral supplies like hard goods that are harder to come by, like Oasis, which is the green foam here. They come in different shapes and sizes, and my wholesalers booked out like 2 months to even try and get it in. So thankfully I don't need that stuff often, but if I get a random funeral order, they might not have what I need. Whereas before you just go in and they have it, and it's not the case now, unfortunately. But yeah, things are definitely higher. There were some goods that like we couldn't get all together. There's a special glue that we use to make corsages and boutonnieres and even other random little things. You couldn't find it anywhere. People were hoarding their glue. Thankfully, I knew it was coming, and I bought like 20 boxes of glue. I still have a couple left, thankfully, but some people weren't able to get it. It's that hard to find item, I guess. But anyways, the different types of eucalyptus that I have up here today, I've got silver dollar eucalyptus. I've got some seeded eucalyptus. I have Stewartina. This is a newer one to me. It's kind of like a baby eucalyptus, but it's got some of these fun, almost fall tones to it. I've got some feather eucalyptus, and then this is a guneye as well. So those are all kind of fun, aren't they? All eucalyptus, all a little bit different. So I'm just going to start adding in some of my seeded eucalyptus to give me a little bit of a base into my 8-inch bubble bowl here. Seeded, yep, it's got seeds on it. Yeah, and this is actually, this is really a nice piece. It's just about to go off crop, so it's not going to be available for a couple more months, but this is older growth on here, so it's nice and full with the seeds. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of my florist friends will sell eucalyptus bundles, especially just for the shower. Yeah, if I had a retail shop, I would do that. So I'm just going to get a little base with my seeded eucalyptus here, and then I'm just going to add in some of my silver dollar to flow it out a little bit more. I love working with eucalyptus for weddings too. Again, like if you're going to do like a dinner party, you could just line some eucalyptus on the table, and that makes a huge impact. Jeannie will tell you, she's at my greens layer. For a lot of weddings that I do, we do loose greens on the table, and it just makes a huge impact. And then you nestle in some candles, and you've got a centerpiece. But the eucalyptus smells good too. You want to hand out some leaves too. It's got that nice aroma to it. So it really depends on what it is, but for this one, usually I try and go with a bigger, sturdier bloom or green in this case to give me kind of a grid to work with in the vase. That kind of helps hold everything else into place. If you go with a thinner, smaller stem, it's not going to give you that support that you really need. So, and again, when I'm putting my greens in the vase, I pull all the leaves off of the vase so they're not inside the vase. So that promotes bacteria growth. So that I'm going to add in a little bit of this guneye here because it's fun. It's got a little bit of a smaller leaf to it. And it just gives the arrangement a whole nother texture. You would have to probably special order them from a florist. If you ever want to order anything from me, you can. I just need enough notice to get it ordered in for you, but Kuhn's might have something. I have never been to the Jacksonville Flower Markets. They might have some stuff too. They're kind of a wholesaler, but they're open to the public. That's my understanding. Trader Joe's. They have a lot of eucalyptus as well. And they sometimes they have the guneye as well. I know they always have like seeded eucalyptus and silver dollar in there as well. And it's fairly reasonable for what it is. All right, so I'm going to add in a little bit of my feather or willow eucalyptus here too. This was feather or willow eucalyptus. You can. It's not as easy to grow as it is like out in California, but if you do drive around in some neighborhoods, you will see like baby blue eucalyptus growing. It's similar to this and similar to this kind. Well, not this one, the Stewartina. There's a couple over in Fairfax. I think there's like 2 trees of this, and I want to go snip it every time I walk by. When I better not. But yeah, you can grow it here. Like the trees, like the seeded eucalyptus or the silver dollar. I don't think I've really seen a whole lot of that here, but if you drive around in California, it's everywhere. It might be that, it might also be the heat. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to look at what the growing conditions are. The recommended growing conditions are for it, but I want to say out in California, I mean, they have the warmth, but it's not quite as hot there. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but it's also grown in Australia too, of course, for the koalas. They eat it all. Yeah. All right, last but not least, I'm going to add some of the Stewartina. This is kind of a fun one. Not quite the same as the baby blue eucalyptus. That one is a popular one for the shower, for sure. That one is very aromatic. But if you've ever worked with it, it gets very sticky on your hands. Whereas this is not sticky at all. So what do you think of this one, the different textures? It's pretty easy to do. Thanks. I have been doing it for a little while. You should have seen the first arrangements I did. They did not look this good. I will tell you that. But I practiced and practiced and practiced, and I got better over time. I've taken classes throughout the country, California, Oklahoma, Minnesota, and Washington, D.C. I've studied with designers that are AIFD certified. If you know anything about that, American something, yeah. But I've also just taken classes with some really renowned wedding florists as well. Karen Tran was one, and then again, Holly Chappell. I've learned a lot from them too.
What is that one you're working with now?
This was Stewartina.
Stewartina. Okay.
Yeah.
It looks like a little different than the other ones.
Yeah. So I think this is a little bit of an older piece that grew, or maybe it's a younger piece. No, it's got to be a younger piece because it's got some new growth right here. So it might be a little bit of a different color as it matures. But yeah, that particular piece was a little bit different color, but the rest of it is still green, blue-green. So, all right, I think this one's pretty good. What do you think? So now you can go to Trader Joe's, buy your different bunches, and you can make a nice little centerpiece with the different eucalyptus. Yeah. I don't think so. It's not that strong of a fragrance to overpower it per se, like an oriental lily would be. That has got a strong aroma. It's going to fill up your entire house. Where this, it's a nice, pleasant fragrance, and I don't think it would interfere with the food. Right. That's a lot of greens. Next, I'm going to design in this gold mercury glass compote. And again, earlier I mentioned the Holly Chappell pillow. And this one, I'm just going to use half. They just snap together. Let's see if I can get it unsnapped, maybe, or not. But it does come apart. There it goes. But I just put half of it in the bottom, and then I use a little bit of that same Oasis anchor tape on there to secure it into the compote. And so I'm going to use some of this eucalyptus again, just some of my nice feather eucalyptus here. I'm just going to set it right in. Now this pillow is nice because it helps keep the things in place for you. And I'm going to go a little bit wider out on this instead of just round shape. And I'm going to do just a touch of my eucalyptus here too. This is a big piece with all the heavy seeds. I'm going to take a few of these leaves away here. Put it down inside too, just so it drapes nice. You know, a lot of it does. Roses come from there, carnations, daisies, but really we get stuff from all over the world. Stuff comes from California, Holland, New Zealand, Australia, Thailand for orchids, Canada, yes. There's a grower that has Alstroemeria and Gerbera daisies and tulips. There's another one that's very similar to that in Minnesota. They also grow roses. There's a couple rose growers in California. Some things come from Oregon or Washington State. It really just depends on what you're looking for because it could come domestically. Alaska is another one for peonies. Their peony season is a bit later, so we can get them in July and the beginning of August versus, 48 contiguous states. We get them, say, beginning of May through the middle of June. And then there's like a 3 or 4 week break, and then Alaska starts, which is really kind of nice for the wedding industry. But then in the fall, we get them from Chile. Israel is another country for peonies. I mean, there's stuff grown everywhere. It just really depends on what it is and what time of year it is too. So, all right, I'm going to add a bit more greens. I've got this coffee foliage. And this is it's lighter coffee. This must be a newer growth. Usually it's a bit darker, like this is really ruscus. But today it's a lighter green. But this one is really nice. Usually it lasts, weeks. But it's got some nice, fun, smaller leaves. I'm just going to add a couple in a little bit lower in here too. And I've got this Israeli ruscus. This is another one I use a lot for weddings, for my greens and candles tables. It holds up really well. It's got a true green color to it. It does have a cousin, the Italian ruscus. The leaves are a bit smaller and they're a little bit darker in color, but those two together look really good. And again, they're super long lasting. I didn't buy any today, but I could have. But this looks great because we've got different shades of green in here. So that could be 50 shades of gray, it's 50 shades of green. So I'm going to tuck some of these kind of in here to give it a little bit more volume too. And I'm going to go back and add a little bit more of my eucalyptus. And with a lot of these greens, you'll notice that I don't just snip off the tops. I use all of the available leaves that are on here. And that's important so you don't waste a lot of your greenery.
This is like the most elaborate salad I've ever seen.
It does look like a salad with all the different colors. Now it would look great with flowers added in here too, of course, but tonight is fabulous greens. Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, at Christmas time, if you use evergreens, like if you're doing, even if it's not in foam or just in water like this, and your flowers are spent and they're done, just pop them out, add some fresh water, put some new flowers in, and you've got another whole centerpiece, but your greens are still good. Your base is still there. And the Christmas evergreens, they last forever as long as you water them. They look good. Let's turn this around, see how it looks. And it's just greens. That's it. I'll add a little bit of this gunite and see if there's anything else we're going to add. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Hence why we're green today.
I'm going to say that it was my brilliant thinking that I did this St. Patrick's Day in mind, but I did not.
That is smart. You didn't? Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, this was my brilliant idea.
Now, if you really wanted to make it St. Patrick's Day, you could go get an oxalis plant and just kind of nestle that in here too. And then you have some shamrocks. An oxalis, which is shamrocks, your 4-leaf clovers. Yeah. All right. I think that looks good. Just call that one good. Might add a little bit more here. There you go. All green. All right. It is. I use those for wedding centerpieces all the time. Definitely a popular choice. Now this next one is kind of a test tube vase. It's kind of fun, isn't it? It doesn't take a lot of greens, which is good. Or even flowers. It doesn't take too many flowers, but I'm going to do some burgundy foliage in there. I've got some acacia, and then this is agonis. Although this is pretty dried. If you come up and feel it, they must have had it in their cooler for quite a while, but I kind of like the burgundy foliage, but this one's only going to take a couple stems to fill it up, but it still makes a huge impact. I'm just going to do these at different heights. And then for a little bit more flavor, we're going to add in some of this agonis. Agonis, A-G-O-N-I-S. Right now it's got a greener color to it with just burgundy tips. In the winter, it's all burgundy. Good question. I have not seen it in yards around here, but I can look it up and let you know. But one that you can grow here that's burgundy is your Laura petalum. Yeah. So I'm just going to add a little bit of this in here. It does have a little bit of a flower to it right now, but the foliage is still Really pretty burgundy. Now, why is that? Oh, there you go. All right, so you see that just took a couple stems. Voila. Isn't that pretty? Just burgundy foliages. It is. One of my really good floral friends found those at the wholesaler in Minneapolis. That's where I did flowers for a number of years. And she used them all the time for her everyday orders. And she sent me a picture of them. Like, I need those. So I bought like 15 of them. So they're fun. This next one is just super quick. I'm just going to show you this beautiful jasmine vine. It's not Confederate jasmine. It's a regular jasmine vine. I believe it's grown out in California. I can check and see if we can grow it here. I haven't found it anywhere, but I've tried. And this is just really fun laid out. Tuck your candles in there. And you have an easy centerpiece. Now, if you wanted to add more types of greenery to it, you certainly could, but even by itself is just super pretty. It's just jasmine vine. Oh, no, it's not sappy like the Confederate jasmine. My guess is it's a cousin. It's probably in the same floral family, but it's not the exact same. But even by itself, that's just so pretty laid out on the table. I do, but it's expensive. I've used it for a couple arrangements. Yeah, I used it for a really pretty cascade bouquet, a hand-tied cascade bouquet that I made, and that just trailed down, and it looked really pretty with all the pale pinks in the bouquet with sweet peas and garden roses. It was beautiful. Absolutely. Yeah, a sweetheart table. That would look good. Absolutely. All right. Last one before the arrangement that you guys are going to do. I'm just going to design it on this vase for now, but ultimately it's going to go on this beautiful gold stand. The gold stand's not going to fit on here. But I've got a loamy dish with a piece of foam that's been soaked, and I'm going to score the edges here. It's easier to stick the stems in. If you left them on and you stuck all your stems in, it could break apart. So that's why I just cut the edges off. Now I see here it hasn't soaked all the way through. It's okay for tonight, but if I was gonna do it for a wedding or something like that, I'd re-soak this just a little bit more so the foam is completely soaked. But you can just see there's two little spots right here that it didn't completely get wet, but it'll be okay for tonight. Whoever takes this one home, just water it when you get home and it'll be good. But this one is going to have some beautiful tropical leaves. Now, Jeannie cut these beautiful split leaf philodendrons from her yard. I'm going to see which ones we're going to use here. Use a couple of these. Does anybody have these in your yard? Yeah. Do they grow like crazy? Yeah. I need to plant some in my yard. Usually, if I have a wedding that I need tropical leaves for, I go out and buy the plants, and then I just plant them in my yard afterwards, and then they just flourish out there. But I have not needed these yet. I'll come to your house, Jeannie, and grab them. But I've got monstera leaves at my house. I've got aspidistra at my house. I've got birds of paradise at my house. Alocasias, and those are all leftovers from my wedding, and I make them last afterwards, which is really fun. So these I'm just going to stick into the foam to start giving me a little bit of a base for my arrangement. That just makes an impact, and that's only 4 leaves right there. So let's see what else I've got here. Got a couple big monsteras from Jeannie too. Just gonna go in with these a little bit higher. And if I wanted to make these leaves a little bit shinier, there's a product called Leaf Shine, and you just spray it on it. It's like a gloss, and it just really brightens it up. I didn't bring any today. I didn't want to spray it with all of you guys here, but it does really make an impact, and I definitely would spray it if it was going to be for an event that I was going to do. Loosen my mic. All right. Next, I'm sure a lot of you have these in your yard. These are the aspidistra or cast iron plant. They spread like crazy, which is good. They do love the shade. They don't love full sun. They will get burnt in the sun. But I've got a whole bunch of these in my backyard. And you can use these a couple different ways. You can use them as is, but I like to fold them. And there's a couple ways you can do the folding. I usually like to tape mine. And you guys are going to tape yours when you do your arrangement later, but I just put my piece of tape on the bottom and I just kind of squeeze the end together and then rip off the excess tape. You can also staple them if you have a stapler, or if you don't want to do that, you can just go like this, which I might do here just to save a little bit of time. But I'm going to fold a couple of these together and just stick them in to create more of a little bit of a base here on my foam. Now, for tonight's demonstration, I just used one piece of foam. Usually I would probably do 2 pieces of foam just so it's a little bit bigger and you have a little bit more of a stable base. But just for tonight's demonstration, I just used one. And I'm just going to tuck a couple of these in here before I add the rest of my greens. These are kind of nice to use to cover up your foam. So then when it's elevated on the table and you're looking up at it, you don't see a whole bunch of green foam. You see just leaves. Now, some of these have a little bit of a light lime green stripe down the middle, which is kind of fun. It's just a little bit of a mutation among the plant, which is kind of cool. And with these, you can get really, really big if you want, or you can make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to go a little bit bigger today. All right, so that looks good for now. And I've got some more of these smaller monsteras. And these ones I bought from the wholesaler today. We're just going to tuck a couple more of these in. Now, an arrangement like this, I would love to do for a wedding or party where they needed some drama in the room. Now, I'm just kind of tucking these down and below and up a little bit higher. Just kind of creating a layering effect so it's not all in the same plane of view. I'll just do one more of these guys. Maybe one
I kind
more.
of feel like it mimics nature in the way that they're being
Absolutely.
arranged.
Yeah, how it grows in the rainforest. All right, so now we're going to add a few other things. So we have some bird of paradise leaves. And let's see, I cut some coontie out of my yard. I might add a couple of those. And then Jeannie brought me some beautiful pampas. or papyrus, right? And she's got a couple of these little birds of paradise too. And then we have palms too. We're gonna put those in last. These two. This is just gonna be a really fun tropical arrangement. I'm just gonna add some of these birds of paradise in a little bit shorter, but I'm gonna kind of group these together, cluster them, so they have a bigger effect instead of just being all by themselves. Ruby reds. Ruby is my birthstone, and I could tell the story. It's not a very exciting story, but I was just driving along one day. I'm like, I need a name for this company. Ruby reds it is. So I don't know. Just Ruby is being my birthstone. I guess that was kind of the catalyst for the name, but it's not a great story. But I was driving along in Minneapolis, or St. Paul, actually, not Minneapolis, driving along and just came along. I started the company in 2005 and made it official, but I had done a couple of weddings before that unofficially. Did my first wedding when I was a freshman in college. Girlfriend of mine had seen the bridal bouquet of the flowers I made from my own yard. And she said, oh, you should do my sister's wedding when I was a senior in high school. This was. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Hoping and praying for the next year, they forgot. They did not. And so I did my very first wedding. It was a cascade bouquet. It all fell, well, not the whole thing, but some of the things fell out as she walked down the aisle. The photographer was very rude. He said, maybe if you practice more, you can do this for a living. I'm like, okay, I guess I proved him wrong. So yeah, that was my very first wedding. 18 years old. Done hundreds of weddings since, and they've all gone much better. So I'm going to add some of this papyrus. This is really fun. Thank you, Jeannie.
I apparently need to buy some raffle tickets because that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Trip to Jeannie's yard. You can come to my yard and clip things if you wish. Yeah, I've got all kinds of stuff. I think our property is almost 3/4 of an acre, but we've got a creek in the back that accounts for part of that. But I've got a number of different greenery plants. I think your yard's bigger than Jeannie, isn't it? Yeah, and you've got all kinds of stuff. I need to plant more stuff. Maybe we're adding on to our house right now, and so when that's done, I'm going to have a whole new section to plant. So we'll see what I come up with. I was going to say, it might be technically an invasive. It might technically be on the invasive list. We'll have to check for sure, but it's beautiful nonetheless. What do you think? I love doing something like this for a bride that wants a tall centerpiece, but she doesn't have the $350 a table budget. So we do greens instead. And it still makes that beautiful impact. Yeah, I can definitely help you out with that and let you know which ones you can grow here. Yeah, like it would be like the monstera, the split leaf philodendron, the aspidistra. I tried to get some Xanadu, but I couldn't get my hands on any today, but that's another one. It's a smaller tropical leaf. It's kind of a cross between the monstera and the split leaf philodendron. Actually, it's like a littler mini version of this. That one's really fun to grow too in your yard, but let's see. I think I'm going to add a couple more of these aspidistra, and then I'm going to call this one good, but I'm going to put it on the gold stand so you can see what it looks like completed. This one's really fun, isn't it? All right, let's see. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. We've got different layers, different textures. And I'm gonna put it on this gold stand here and see how it looks. Just like that. Yeah, there you go. Some fun tall arrangement. All right, last but not least, before you guys are set free to work on your piece, is the one that you're gonna do. You're each gonna have a 5-inch cube vase at your spot. You should have 3 of the aspidistra. Just count them and make sure you have all 3. My 5-year-old put them out for you, so hopefully there's 3 for you. And you have 1 monstera. And then you've got some Nagy, which is this one. And bear grass. I'm going to give you a disclaimer about the bear grass. It cuts like a knife, but it's very fun to work with. So just be very careful when you are working with it that you don't accidentally slide your finger across it, because you will get a cut. I've done it many times. Not fun. But let me see if you have, oh, sword fern. Jeannie brought us some sword fern too. That's one thing that I don't have in my yard, but the neighbor has a ton of it, and it's kind of creeping into our yard too, but I didn't want to go down in the swamp. So we're just going to use Jeannie's. Yes, definitely highly invasive. We used to have it at our old place, and it just took over everything that was out there. So if you want, when you're doing your arrangement and you want more sword fern, there's more up here. Come up and grab some if you wish. So I think that is everything that you've got. Yeah. So you've got your vase. There's a couple of different ways that you can make your arrangement. You can either do it grouped, where you have all the same type of greenery together, or you can mix it all together and space it around. I'm going to start off doing it mixed, but I'll show you how it looks grouped as well. First thing I'm going to do is get my aspidistra leaves, and I'm going to tape them all together. Tape them folded. And each of you has a piece of tape at your spot. It should last you for all 3 leaves that you have. But if you need more for some reason, let me know. This one's a little bit bigger, and I'm going to make him a little bit smaller and just tape him up a little bit higher. Otherwise, he'll take over your entire vase and you'll run out of room. My tape wasn't long enough, so I get some more. You could cut off the excess on the top of the leaf if you wish, but for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to leave them for right now. But once I've got all 3 of my leaves folded, I'm just going to cut them off and stick them in the vase. And I picked this one as the first piece to go in because they are a little bit bigger, and they're going to, again, help with that grid to keep everything in your vase. So just going to cut those off pretty short and stick them in. So now you've got your 3 aspidistra in there. And then I'm going to select my Nagy. Now your pieces might look a little bit different. This one's really big, so I'm going to cut it apart into smaller pieces before I add it in. And again, we're not going to waste any bit of this, so we're going to make it into as many usable pieces as we can. I'm just going to take off the excess green on the bottom. And if at the top we're missing leaves, I'm just going to clip that part off too, so it looks nice and finished. Then I'm just going to start adding this into my vase. This does have a bit of a fragrance to it as well. You can smell it when you get to your table. But these last a really long time. And this greenery actually looks very similar to the Italian ruscus, the type I didn't bring today. But it's a good alternative. So for this, I'm just going to spread it all the way around just to have a little bit in each corner. And then I'm going to do a little bit taller up as well. Just like that. And I'm going to take my monstera. He's just going to kind of hang off to one side. Just like that. I take my sword fern. And just tuck him in. Some of them I'm going to leave a little bit taller for some drama. The third one tall, even taller. Just kind of coming off of that monstera there. And your bear grass. So what I'm going to show you is to make a bear grass loop. And you could make a couple of these if you wish, because you've got a bunch of bear grass. So I'm going to take a couple pieces in my right hand, carefully run my fingers across it and grab it, make a loop, stick my hand through the loop, pull it back over, feed it around, and stick it through. I will come around and help you make this if you wish to make it. It's very hard to do, but it's a fun little loop. Now, if you want to make it bigger, you can just slide it right down. If you want to make it smaller, slide it on up. But I'm going to leave mine a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to trim off my edges.
That's magic.
What was that?
That's magic.
It is magic. I'm just going to tuck him in there. I'm going to make another one. And actually just put it on the same side there. Now, if you didn't want to make bear grass loops, you want to do something a little bit different with your bear grass, you can just wind it around your hand and put it inside your vase. Usually the rule is no greens inside the vase. Now, something like bear grass is not going to hurt the water. If we had extra aspidistra leaves, you could wrap that inside the vase as well. But I'm just going to demonstrate how you can do the bear grass inside the vase. I'm just going to cut off the ends. I'm going to carefully wrap it around my hand and just wind it inside the vase just for a little bit of an added interest. Another fun one that's similar to this, but a little bit different, is lily grass. It's a little bit wider, and that looks really good inside of a vase as well. But
Annie, would you mind moving that onto the camera a little bit more? It's just off camera. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one inside.
Grab another little piece. I'm going to trim it. I'm going to move this over here.
There we go. Thanks.
Just going to wrap it around my hand and drop it in the vase. Now, another thing you could do, I'm going to take these out quick. Even take one of these palms, snip off the edge, carefully wind it around. Drop that in too. You could add a floating candle to the top and voila, you have another centerpiece. So there you go. All right, so I think this is done. I think that's everything that you have. You've got your monstera, you've got your sword fern, you've got your bear grass, your aspidistra leaves, and you've got your naggy fern. So there you go. I will be coming around if you have questions or concerns on how to make anything that you've seen. If you want more greens, come on up. I have a lot. If you want to add some different ones, I've got, some more naggy if you need more naggy. And there's a few other random little bits if you want something different for your arrangement too. But questions? Anyone? No? All right.
All right. Well, right before we get to started, I'm just going to have a couple of parting messages for you. So give me 1 second. All right. Could we have a big round of applause for Bonnie?
Thank you. Thank you.
And if you're not, asking her to do amazing arrangements for you, get started asking her, because she has a great business and she's worth every penny. Um, so I just want to tell you about a couple of things coming up. Our wonderful Designer of Distinction program coming up April 28th. Eileen Tongson has a company called Farm Gal Flowers, and she is all about locally grown flowers, farm to table flowers. And so she's going to be bringing flowers that she grows on her farm, and she designs beautiful arrangements using those. So April 28th, please consider coming to that. Our Blooms Galore and Morris plant sale is coming up April 9th. It is such an amazing event. Our whole campus is covered with awesome, fun things, a major plant sale. Every plant that you could possibly want will be here. This ballroom will be filled with beautiful, environmentally themed products, honey and soap and all sorts of things. So please check that out. There's a preview party for that too, the night before on April 8th, and there'll be an amazing container competition. So we have many of our circles are competing with each other, doing really beautiful, they all have the same 18-inch container, and you can come and vote for your favorite, and then you can bid on one to take it home.
Jeannie and I are doing one.
Fantastic. So, all right. And then we have our Budding Gardens program this Saturday on herbs. The Wildflower Circle is sponsoring that. And they will be here to put on a really great program. So if you haven't signed up your child, consider doing that. We have a survey that we'd love you to take. You can either scan this or scan the QR code that is at the check-in table. We'll also send it to you afterward, but we really want your feedback. So please take the survey after this program and let us know how we did. Once again, I want to thank the Jessie Ball DuPont Fund for making programs like this possible. And I want to thank all of you for coming tonight, and let's get started making fun stuff. All right, have a great evening.
If anyone needs a pair of clippers, let me know. I have a few extra pairs that I can lend to you, but if not, go right ahead.